Okay, I'll call this meeting to order at 6:30. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call. We'll start with Rebecca.
Rebecca Johnson. Randy Pelletier. Carol Law.
Jason Henry.
Jay Fitzpatrick.
Eunice Landry.
Pam McLeod.
Tim Broderick.
Heidi Duper. Lila Atkins. Ann Pierce.
We have I will open a public hearing pursuant to RSA 198:20-B to accept and expend unanticipated funds. We need a vote on that. Do we need a roll call vote?
I don't believe so. You are
Okay.
required to hold a public hearing annually. The legislative body, the taxpayers in Alton Barnstable, have previously approved a warrant article giving you, the joint board, the authority to accept unanticipated grant funds in excess of what were budgeted and expected. This is how you do it. You hold a public hearing, chance for the public to participate, and then you can vote to accept unanticipated grant funds.
Do we need to vote to open the public hearing?
I think you can open it.
Okay. We'll call it open then. Would you like to add anything?
Okay.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? Okay. All in favor?
We got to close
Aye.
the public meeting first.
Huh?
Close public hearing first.
Oh, we have to close before we vote. That's right. I close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to accept and expend the unanticipated funds.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. It's reading glasses, they get you every time. You gotta do the librarian thing now. Flipping over. All right, I'll open public input. Seeing none, I'll close public input.
Make a motion to accept the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from April 5th, 2022.
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
You're off and running.
Reports. We have Finance Committee first.
Finance Committee actually had a meeting tonight, but we did not have we had planned to have a meeting, but we did not have a quorum, so we did not have a meeting tonight. But in your packet is the expenditure report. If you have any questions, I'm sure Heidi can answer them for you.
Thank you. Buildings and Grounds Committee.
Yeah, that's me. We did have a meeting the other day. With that, we do have a couple things we need to vote on for building and grounds. As you know, the new scoreboard sign came in and has been put up. We also talked about fixing the sidewalks out front, which will be done this money with maintenance funds we already have. We have, what, 3 things to vote on, Heidi, I believe?
Yes. They are listed under action items, so I don't know.
That's the biggest thing, was just 3 things to vote on. So, you want to go to actions item, or you want to do them now?
Oh, we can do it now. That's fine.
Okay.
So-
So the first
Go
one
ahead.
is what, the engineering and project management services? First one?
So this was brought to you last meeting, but it was the wrong dollar amount. You voted to approve $30,800, but I'm bringing you forward the correct amount, which is $42,500. It's still funded with the ESSER money.
And all 3 you're bringing forward were unanimous to move forward out of the group.
Okay.
Which one is this for? I'm sorry.
It's the engineering and project management services, HL Turner Group, for $42,500. Maybe I can make a motion that we accept H.L. Turner Group for $42,500, replacing the wrong amount we put in for last time. It was actually a different bid for different schools.
I'll second that. Okay, any further discussion? I'm still trying to find it.
So the 30,000 that we voted on last time.
Thank you.
actually was all for the money that we voted on the Alton meeting. So now we're correcting that by voting 43 for this. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Turner won the engineering for a total of 4 projects among the 3 SAUs, and we just got the papers. Sorry.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Motion passes.
Second one would be for the fertilization bid. There were 3 bidders. The one has been doing it, did not put a bid in. With the group, we like to push forward. It's not the lowest bid, but second lowest, Burke's Tree Service in Rochester. Some of the reasons for being A, local, B, True Green Lawn Care has done work here before, but they were difficult to get to come back up here when you need to follow up work and any things that had issues or that eroded or had just come out fixed. They were difficult. So local and known entity that's not so easy to work with. So we are recommending Burke's Tree Service for $12,000 for FY23 and FY24. Total of both years of $24,000.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Next one is a landscaping bid. Same company that's been doing it, Summerscape, put a bid in. They have not changed their costs in
I think it's at 5 years.
like 5 years or longer, and they do a fantastic job around here. Everybody seems to be very pleased with them, so we are putting forward for Summerscape for $43,225 for each of the FY23 and FY24 years.
Any, I was just looking at the numbers are a little bit different on the back. It looks like 43,000 is the base, and then there's other,
Separate tabs, if Andy asked for them.
okay, that we're not awarding.
The
We
spring,
didn't talk about that last time.
yeah, the spring sweeping, I'm not sure. I thought that PDK does that. The core aeration, I'm not familiar.
Yeah, we didn't talk about any of those. Andy didn't bring those forward. All we brought forward was just this
Maybe
one.
it's already in his budget.
Okay.
So we just
All right, so this is just for general landscaping then?
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm gonna abstain.
One abstain, okay.
You on that? The meeting went well.
Thank you. Do we have a capital plan update, or is that,
That was something that
What-
was brought to the committee last night.
Yeah, I can talk about that for a second. We brought it to the Building and Grounds Committee last night. Everyone on the joint board knows that although we developed a 5-year capital plan starting 2 years ago, due to declining enrollment, we've been reluctant to put warrant articles on the town warrants asking for capital items. So we did update that plan about a week ago, working with school administrators, and it still exists. We did also talk to the Building and Grounds Committee about potentially next month bringing you some items from the capital plan to encumber out of surplus. And we wanted to start that conversation now so that, when we show up in June and we're talking about potential encumbrances, it's not the first time that any of you have heard about any of
It's
it.
$135,000 worth of projects out of the money that we have left, which still leave 200 and, I had it written out last night, 200,000 plus to send back.
It's an estimate at this time of the
Yep.
year anyway, which is one of the reasons you wait until June.
Chorus for
Course floor,
auditorium rug,
Good job.
I should have brought my notes.
I should I know. I had sitting at my desk
Yep,
at
so
work.
the course practice room and the auditorium are on the capital plan for floors, total of about, I think, 27 and 13, $40,000 altogether-ish.
One was a
For
van.
those two projects. There's a, we own a four-wheel vehicle that the grounds and maintenance crew use to tool around. It's about 10 years old. So Mr. Callahan's interested in a new one that can also pull grooming equipment for the softball infield and maybe the
A lot
grass
cheaper than
fields.
buying an extra special piece of equipment to do the field.
So that's in there. We tentatively put, just so it's on your radar, I think years ago, some of you have talked about something like this. If we owned a 15-passenger van, it could be used for a number of purposes. Here, we're not sure that that's something that can be done out of year-end surplus. Heidi and I are working to figure that out, but again, wanted to put that on your radar now. Tom Rubino is putting together pricing to get some permanent display technology in this room, the one place where we have to make copies and hand them out every time we want to do anything with a presentation, because we don't have a TV screen to look at or anything like that.
And then
Speakers for the gym.
Jim, that's it.
Speakers
Yeah.
for the gym, where you already did the components that support speakers, but the speakers themselves haven't been replaced. All told, like Jason said, $135,000, potentially. And we'll come with our advice and opinions on all of that in a month, based on what the actual surplus picture looks like and what we learn from our auditors and looking at the budget and kind of figuring out what we think makes sense.
And the van would benefit the special education population, because they'd be taking them out into the community to do some community work in stores and, you know, different kinds of vocational training, and they could transport them rather than hire a bus through the bus
Well,
company.
I think with the bus shortage situation, we can obtain any van. I think that's great.
So-
It's,
But we had looked at that before, and for some reason,
It was a little before our time, so
Yes,
we've
it
only
was.
heard stories.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, I was here, but I don't remember why it fell flat, but it did.
We're hoping that the state has already done procurement, because a lot of municipalities and schools need this kind of thing. So if there's already a van on the state bid list, it saves us a bunch of procurement time. And also, again, there are some things we need to talk to the auditors about, make sure we have an appropriate line in the budget that you could transfer the money to and still pass the audit. So we've got a little work to do. Carol's exactly right. It could be used for transition purposes, particularly with some of our higher needs students who are older than 18 and are going to remain in school with us until they're 21. But then after school, I mean, we're a small school, so the cross-country team could potentially fit on a van. The tennis team could fit, there are maybe others. So there could be a lot of uses. Every time we hire a big yellow school bus to take a trip, in your head, when you see one of those on the road, you're looking at $325.
Back in the day when I talked about Mount Regional,
handy rule of thumb.
I used to drive the Suburban and take the golf team in the Suburban. It's the school owned.
Okay, great.
We know who's gonna be driving now. You out there.
I'm in, I'm ready to retire. I'm ready to retire any day, so I'm gonna hire a driver.
All right, we're moving on to the student rep report, Grace.
So, recently the robotics team had completed their 2022 season. Their record at the end of their 2 district events and the New England district camp event was 30 wins and 20 losses. They took home the Spirit Award at these 3 events. Out of 183 teams in New England, they were ranked 13th, which everybody's really excited about. Their focus this spring and summer will be community outreach and off-season events, and they recently acquired new members as well. For the Prospect FDLA, they attended the State Leadership Conference and Competition the last weekend of March. They brought home 5 awards, including the Outstanding Participation in State Projects, and were recognized as a New Hampshire FDLA Honor Chapter. One of our students was reelected for a 2nd term as the state officer and was named Who's Who in the New Hampshire FDLA. Our FDLA advisor was also voted the advisor of the year for FDLA. The members of the semi committee put together a super fun semi-formal for freshmen and sophomores, which had the Neon Nights theme. which was great to get some of the freshmen and sophomores together that hadn't talked because of COVID. For National Honor Society and Tri-M, they're putting on a lantern festival this Saturday in Alton Bay from 5 to 9 p.m. It has live student music produced, student-produced music, food trucks, and lantern decorating, where they light them off, and all proceeds will go to the.
What's he watching over there? Anything good?
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
So they'll be lantern decorated, and anybody who buys a lantern can also set it off as kind of like a senior send-off, with all the proceeds going to the Boston Children's Hospital. Seniors are hosting this year's junior-senior prom on the Mount Washington boat on May 13th, so everybody's very excited about that. The talk is all about dresses constantly.
Is it leaving from the bay?
Yeah.
It is.
Not all the time.
We've been talking about our dresses all week.
Teeny chaperones?
So is it leaving from the bay? You said no, it's not leaving from the bay? Is it leaving?
No, it is leaving from
Oh,
the bay.
okay.
I said no, it's not all
That's
dressed
what
up.
it's looking. So the Lantern Festival is in the Bay, it's not at the high school?
It's on video.
Three out of three juniors at Prospect that had applied to the St. Paul's Advanced Studies program in Concord were accepted. So 2 of them will be attending, and 1 will be attending the RISD pre-college summer program in Rhode Island. The student who's going to RISD is studying in interior design, and for St. Paul's, the 2 students are studying ecology and international relations and global politics. As far as athletics go, we had 9 senior 3-sport athletes, and then for the 2022 NHIAA and New Hampshire ADA Scholar athletes, which requires that you be a current senior with a 3.25 GPA throughout high school career and currently active in at least 2 sports, along with being voted a positive role model. We had 10 seniors who received the recognition. One of our students threw a complete game, 1 hitter with 20 strikeouts for softball, which was a new school record. And for our Division III standings for athletics, softball is ranked number 1, undefeated. Girls tennis is ranked number 4, and boys tennis is ranked number 6.
Softball team's on fire. The lanterns in Alton Bay are a $10 donation if anybody would like to donate and can't make it. I'm sure that Grace would take your money.
Yeah, that's what it is. I didn't know where it was. I thought it had said Prospect, so.
No.
Awesome. Thank you. So we have enrollment options report.
So, we've had 2 meetings recently, talk about enrollment options. As we know, we've looked at several schools to see about tuitioning into here, and it has not worked out. They're still trying to figure out what they want to do for their options. The superintendent has looked at a couple of other, E and F options, and which is going to present tonight is, one is an open enrollment for this high school, where we would be able to have other students from around the area and state come here and to basically tuition in, and I'll go on to talk about they pay 80% of the cost coming from that sending district, which would help with our numbers and keeping our school going with the classes we have, possibly expanding and revenue. And the other one is a possibility of a alternative school, call it a K-12 school. It's different names. I'll let the superintendent go into it, which is a very neat online school that we would partner with. I'm over here to talk about it a little bit. This company, which has a lot of potential for being parallel with the school of a lot of kids that can go to it, but also being run by this, hosting by the school hosting it. And some neat things is, if we did this, and after this presentation we might take a vote, we would be the only school in New Hampshire partnering with that, because they're only going to do it with 1 school in New Hampshire. But there's a lot of moving parts to this, including the Department of Education. There's some grant money and everything else. And with that, I'm going to turn the rest over.
There's a reason why we repeat the same information over and over. Mr. Henry got it all right. So you have a little presentation in front of you, and I'm not going to read it to you. You might want to look at it. You might want to take it and look at it after tonight. What I'm going to ask you to consider tonight is really step one in a 2 to 3 year multi-step process. I'm going to introduce, with your permission, Madam Chair, Peter Stewart from K-12 Education, now Stride, or Stride K-12. They change their name every 2 or 3 years, whether they need to or not. I've known Peter for a couple of years. We've actually been talking about this idea that I'm going to present to you tonight for a long time. But as Jason mentioned, we were working on options A, B, C, and D to address the enrollment issues here at Prospect Mountain High School. So without reading the first half of the presentation to you, what it does is it sort of resets information you already know about our enrollment situation at Prospect Mountain High School and what it means financially, right? It is much harder to run the kind of school you're proud of and you want to continue to run with fewer students because per pupil costs continue to increase, and that creates pressure from the taxpayers to cut, and maybe even pressure from reasonable people within the joint board to just ask at what point can we no longer afford everything that we like having as part of this school. I've done an analysis before and told you, there's a little graph here that shows you why about 500 students would keep your per pupil cost annual increases roughly in line with state averages. When a public high school falls below 500 students, your per pupil cost will rise faster than the state average. Fact. 500 is sort of the magic number for a public high school. There's nothing wrong with 600, but 500 is, in a perfect world, that's your minimum size. You don't want to get smaller than that. And again, run the kind of school that has everything you want it to have for as many different students as possible and make everybody proud. We are currently at about 416 students in this building. That's not where we want to be, and you've already seen the trends. So what I am half jokingly calling plans D and E are two different things that are related to each other. And it's the relationship between them that I think makes it work, and that's why I'm presenting both. First to the options committee and now to all of you, and I'm going to try to turn this over to Peter for a little more detail about his part of it as soon as I can. The first part of that is that next year, starting in this coming fall with your okay, I submit paperwork to the Department of Education telling them that we are going to start an innovation program or an innovation school within Prospect Mountain High School. It'll be a pilot program that doesn't enroll more than 20 or 25 students, and the finances will determine where that number lands, but I'm here to tell you 20 or 25 will be the number. And it will be an online school, but I'm not going to use that term anymore. I'm going to call it a blended school because it will combine online teaching and learning with some in-person experiences, and we'll detail that a little bit. The online component can be provided by Peter Stewart's company, K-12 Education. He doesn't own it. It's a publicly traded company, but I'll refer to it as his. And again, Stride. Sorry, Peter. He doesn't care. They've been in this business for 20 years, and he can give you more about their background and what they do. In New Hampshire right now, there is one public online school. It's called VLAX. You've all heard of it. VLAX is essentially independent study. Students who enroll in VLAX courses, especially at the high school level, go access the materials, do the work, submit it. There is an opportunity to conference with an adult educator from time to time. But for all intents and purposes, this is independent study. And what Peter's going to tell you about is an online school that is not that by any stretch of the imagination. The blended piece is simply that, remember, these are students from our catchment area next year, 20 or 25 kids from Alton and Barnstead. I've already started talking with some homeschooling groups. As kids get older who are homeschooling, sometimes parents feel like they don't have the technical expertise to teach all the subjects, and they end up looking for online options anyway, so there's at least a chance that we could get some people that way. There's also a chance that 1%, 2% of our 420 kids after the pandemic might have found that online education worked for them. They might be the few. And could we end up with, I think we could end up with 20 students. If we only get 15 or 18, that's fine. We would do it with that number. Once during the fall and once during the spring, we would have these students who are otherwise being educated online go over to the Scout Reservation at TL Storer and do the ropes course and some other team building and in-person nature-based activities. We can work that out with TL Store. They have the expertise to provide that part of the curriculum, if you will. I'm looking for your authorization to pursue that project for next year tonight. The Commissioner of Education wants this to happen. Regardless of what you think about his politics overall, you're all probably aware that the Commissioner believes in more options to engage more students in more different ways. This is a different way. This is something that does not exist in New Hampshire right now. We would be providing it for a very small number of students. The Commissioner has set aside some money from the Department of Education's ESSER grants, just like we have ESSER money. The department itself has ESSER money, and has told me that he'll make a grant available to us out of the department's ESSER money to fund this program next year. I estimate that at between $250,000, $300,000. If you look through the slides, you'll find one that says 275, so I kind of hit the number in the middle there. I would finish a prospectus, email it to all of you, and then submit it to the Department of Education probably by Friday. And because I said Friday, it probably means next Wednesday, but I'll do my best. That's part one. Part two is that next March, I'm going to suggest that you place warrant articles on the warrants in both towns, allowing Prospect Mountain High School to become an open enrollment school under existing New Hampshire law. There's already a law in New Hampshire that allows a municipality to do this. Any school in any district can be declared an open enrollment school, but you can't do it. You can create the innovation program that I just talked about with the online or blended learning school. You do not have the authority as a school board to become an open enrollment school. The legislative body, your taxpayers, your voters, are the only ones who can do that. It takes a simple majority, and I think after we lay out the reasons why, it wouldn't be that hard. You could do it at deliberative session here and at the school district meeting in Barnstead. I say here because we are sitting in the town of Alton right now. And I don't think it's a very heavy lift, because once you become an open enrollment school, you'll find right behind this presentation that I gave you, there's a letter here on Department of Education letterhead. I received it on Friday. I've been asking for technical assistance from the Commissioner and his attorneys for several months. Timing was perfect. It came in on Friday. This letter verifies that the existing open enrollment law does not make it optional, but requires students, districts of residence to pay the bill sent by an open enrollment school for that student's attendance. So here's what that means. If Prospect Mountain High School becomes an open enrollment school, any student who resides anywhere in New Hampshire may apply to be admitted here. You set the admissions criteria, which also have to be approved by the Board of Education to ensure things like non-discrimination, but you still get to set the admissions criteria working with the Board of Ed. You determine how many seats are available for a year. So let's say in the fall of 23, you made 40 seats available at Prospect Mountain High School. It would cost this high school $0 additional to educate 40 additional students. You already know that, right? We could take 40 students tomorrow. However, because those students don't live in Alton or Barnstead, under this law, we can send a bill for 80% of our per pupil cost to the district where they do live. And this technical assistance from the Department of Education tells us that they're required by law to pay that bill. Now, will that be easy? You pay me to worry about that. But the law's on our side. There are some rough financial projections in the slides presentation that you have in front of you that show you what this could look like over the first couple of years. And what it means is both students in the building and revenue. Two different ways of solving your enrollment problem. Because enrollment is a people in the building problem and it is a financial problem. And this addresses both of those things. Part three, and I'm just going as quickly as I can here, part three is how these two things work together. Because starting whichever fall, I didn't talk about yet, starting fall after next, if the voters have approved Prospect Mountain as an open enrollment school, you may be getting 40 or 60 or whatever the number is of students who reside in the surrounding towns. They provide their own transportation, by the way. You don't pay for that. They get themselves here. If there are additional special education costs, their districts of residence absorb those costs as well. So our tuition is our tuition. And then if there are other costs the districts of residence cover those. In addition to those in-person students, any student who resides in New Hampshire could apply to enroll in this open enrollment school and opt for the innovation program. Remember that? The online school, the blended learning school. So they might come to a camp or nature-based or whatever you want to think of it as program for 1 week in the fall, 1 week in the winter, 1 week in the spring, but they'd be going to school online. It's almost your turn, Peter. They'd be going to school online every day other than those 2 or 3 weeks. And the district where they live would be paying you, the Joint Board SAU 301, for the cost of their education. And if you look at the financial models, what you discover is that the tuition's a little bit more than it actually costs, which means you begin either funding a capital plan, which has been a challenge, or returning money to the taxpayers in Alton and Barnstead, or both, actually both. And you can see it very easily if you just look at those models. That's my nutshell. Peter Stewart, is that okay?
Yeah. Welcome, Peter.
I sent a overview of the company to Tim. So that's what this is. I promise I won't go through it. So I'm Peter Stewart. I'm the Senior Vice President of School Development at K-12. I've been with the company since it started back in 2000. I was a middle school principal, a curriculum director, English teacher, history teacher. I taught middle school science major quarterly. I was one to do. I thought I was joining. I'm not a very technical person. I thought I was joining the company for like a year or two. I could see how technology was changing public education, and I thought if I was going to be in Tim's position someday, I should probably learn a little bit about technology. And I turned out to love what I'm doing. I'm still care for technology, but I look to start schools. So I go and work with groups like you, with the State Departments of Education, others to try and start new schools. Sometimes they're blended schools for dropouts, for teen moms. Some of them are urban, some of them are rural. And really, as we work for you, we come in and we can help start a school. When I saw your open enrollment role that Tim just talked about, it was in direct conflict with everything I heard from people on the ground in New Hampshire, that there was no open enrollment in New Hampshire. It just didn't exist. And so in November, mid-November, I met with the commissioner, and I talked about open enrollment. He goes, yes, we're going to run a bill that's going to try and push this. And I said, well, you already have a bill. It's already law. And he went and looked at it, and as you saw, his chief counselor came back and said, yes, that law does that. And people just hadn't realized it, which is not that surprising. It's the same thing in Nebraska right now. It's sort of the same thing right now. It's changing like America. Over the last few years, pre-COVID, we're already a pretty big company. We have about 100,000 full-time students in about 30 states. So I work with groups like you in 30 states to help start new schools. Most of them are full-time online schools. Online doesn't appeal to everybody, doesn't work for everybody, but if you're going statewide, and there's 2% of the kids who really would like to, or families would like to do this, that's a lot of families. And so some of these schools are very large. I think the school we work with in Ohio is one school with well over 18,000 students. And so it's like a university almost. Some are small. What we're talking about with Tim is kind of interesting because it would be the first kind of statewide blended school that we've ever done. We've done blended schools in cities, we've done them in little regions, we've done everything statewide. And just where you are and the size of your state, nobody's more than 2 hours away. And so we walked on the grounds today of the former Boy Scouts camp. It was great. It's really easy to see. I started a school in Telluride, Colorado in 1998, Telluride Mountain School, which was kind of like what Tim's talking about. It was outdoor education as well as just regular academics. I think we had the only ice climbing team in Colorado. Cool. You can do that kind of stuff here. So what we're talking about doing is that we would help mostly with the innovation school, which could be your full-time online school. But there's things that we're able to do at scale. We have this program, I'm not scared, but there's probably 2,000 kids in the state who would enter a program like this. If you have roughly 180,000 kids in your state, 2% will do this in a year. not that everybody would come to your school, but that's 3,600 kids, and they will come. You know, if you put this together, families will come to this because they're looking for some kind of different model. COVID, we went from 100,000 kids to 200,000 kids overnight. We would have done more, except a lot of states have said, you know, we can't grow anymore, or they stopped the funding, or whatever, what else would we do? And so we're around 200,000 students. Our teacher training program is the key to kind of our ability to grow quickly. And by happenstance, we developed a teacher training program with the folks at Southern New Hampshire University. Because they're the biggest player in how to work in the online space for a not-for-profit in the country. And so I went to Ray McNulty, who was their dean of their school of education. I said, and I knew him from previously. And I said, what we really want is a research approach to what we're doing and how we're training teachers and how we can do it better. And that ended up becoming the nation's first master's degree program. So if you want to get a master's degree in how to teach online, the place to do it is SNHU. And our teachers make up the vast majority of that program's graduates. And so we'd love to find a way to work with you to develop that program. As it develops, your brick and mortar school can benefit from the fact that we will be able to have teachers if we have 1,000 kids. You will have programs for like AP Physics, which is hard to staff, hard to fill. There's some electives you probably would love to be able to offer that you might not be able to do with a brick and mortar teacher here, but that's your brick and mortar student could take that course online. So in the best of all worlds, these are really good partnerships. We work with some districts where they say, no, we're very happy with what we're doing here. We want you, Peter, and your team to help run the online program. If you look in there, we're out there, I think there's 33 states in the District of Columbia. All of them are statewide. We operate in every state where we're selling curriculum. But where we're partnered with groups like you and others that run schools in about 33 states. We work with some private schools. Our model is such that if you're in, we started with little bit, so the kindergarten, first and second grade back in 2000. And so first, second grade, we just learned how to read. Obviously, it's a partnership with the parent as much as it is with the student. And we ship in boxes and boxes and boxes of materials. So a lot of the bad experiences people had in the last 2 years of online learning, that was from schools that didn't have curriculum that were ready to do it. They didn't have teachers who were trained to do it. They didn't have information systems and platforms that were stable to allow them to do that. It's what we do. And we weren't great at it 20 years ago. We've gotten progressively better each year. But we ship in, I said today in the group, like in third grade, they're learning seed germination science. We ship in seeds, and then we ship in soil. And a little bucket they can put it in. Because some, what happens in Arizona is different than what happens in New Hampshire soil. But a lot of our kids are in Chicago or wherever. And there is no soil they want to just dig up. And so we're very much a hands-on program. If you're familiar with core knowledge at all, that was our roots. We hired John Holden of the Core Knowledge Foundation. And then, in order to have agency over your life, if you have a body of knowledge and a set of skills, you can start making decisions for yourself. In the last 5 years, we've made major investments in why we changed our name from K-12 to Stride, is that we bought a bunch of adult education companies. And so one of them galvanized their #1 client by far is the U.S. military. So when enlisted servicemen, when they're about to transition from working on a base somewhere, working in the military, serving overseas, and then coming back home, they want that transition to go really, really well. But the IT department and the IT experience you get in the military is different from what a company wants. And so Galvanize operates boot camps to help really skilled technicians and computer scientists and engineers make the move so that Oracle or Microsoft or somebody wants to hire them. The name K-12 didn't fit anymore. So that's when we changed our name to Stride. But we do a lot of that. We do a lot with CTE programs. In many states, FBLA, in many states we have an online FBLA chapter, so we'll be the largest chapter of that, or Skills USA, or Robotics Team. And the kids who go to those tournaments, they go to the HOSA, state tournament or regional, then they'll go to the nationals. So a school is not a series of online courses. A school is everything you guys have to do. So we have counselors, we have a full special education program, we have tons of related service providers, some that we contract for, some that work for us. And in working in 35 states, we've had to figure out how to be really flexible. So our IT system has to work in Michigan, the way that Michigan wants student data to be reported, has to work in North Carolina, the way North Carolina wants it to work. We built very flexible systems, but we're also a very flexible company. So if you wanted us to do a lot, we can do a lot. There's some places where it's truly turn-based. If you want us to do a little, if you want us to, you have to explore this, if you want the teachers to be your employees, terrific. If you want us to start off employing teachers, we can do that. We work with Tim, with his team, with you, to figure out what's the right fit. And I guess our biggest pitch is that we've been doing this for a long time, and the market's coming to us. So we're going to open up 2 new states this year. West Virginia and Georgia have already been approved. Maryland just passed a new law that's going to allow that. You guys now have a law that's going to allow that. And so we're going to see more and more of this happening. But I think there's enough families that came through COVID thinking they want something slightly different. If you guys are the ones that offer it, I know they're out there. So happy to take questions or just what you think.
So, okay.
The diploma would be
Yours.
prospect diploma.
Yeah, so you have this innovation school. You probably would eventually want to get a separate number because eventually the school would be big. So you wouldn't want your Division III track team to have to go against, I'm assuming Division I for large one.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just because you have a bunch of online kids who weren't really here every day. So you have to work through high school schools. We do that all the time. But yes, these would be your students.
So when you talk about the robotics, that would be our group that they would be joining.
Could be, or it could just be an online one, because we have teams
Yeah,
that are doing it right now, and so we would, one of the things that we can do in the beginning is start, when it's even like really small, we're part of a national network, and teacher certification has gotten so much easier in the last couple of years, state by state, and so we might have a robotics teacher who teaches a course on robotics, an elective course in Michigan, who's certified to teach in New Hampshire, and could work with the online kids only, or you could say, no, we want them integrated with us. That could be. What you don't want is probably is for kids to be, from outside your community, to be supplanting students who would otherwise be on the robotics team. And so it might be good to have 2 separate ones.
Okay.
So this is going to happen in New Hampshire. Right now, there is one online school. There's one public charter that provides online education. So you don't have to be the ones who do it, but it's going to happen.
Are you looking at trying to expand it K through 12?
Yes.
You are. Okay.
Yeah, so the reason what I've put in front of you in greater detail in print here is a very sequential, first you do this and then that, and then is really because of the regulatory environment and the way we need to get authorizations and sort of build. Beyond what's here is figuring out how to expand it all the way so it's K through 12.
Okay.
And that could happen sooner, it could happen later. And I think the other important thing for me is we have a whole year to wrap our heads around whatever it is Peter just talked about. Because in September, if it's okay with you, and I can submit this application to the commissioner, under a grant, not costing our taxpayers anything, we'll be putting that small number of students in a school that already exists, that they already run. Maybe it's in Indiana, maybe it's the one in Maine, who knows? We'll work that out. Those kids will just start going to that school, and then they'll come to our in-person thing for that week in October and that week in April or May. And they'll be sort of they'll really be a test group for us, right? They'll be a focus group to talk to us about their experience and help us as we develop the rest of whatever this looks like for the future.
So I was going to ask about teachers, so I think you just answered that. So our potential students would get plugged into an existing program. We wouldn't be starting all over with a whole new batch of teachers. I'm just wondering about the teacher shortage.
So next year, let's say they ended up in the Indiana Digital Learning Academy that already exists, if that's not what it's called, sorry, but something like that. That school exists, it already has teachers, there's already a chemistry class. So if 4 of our 22 kids need chemistry, they'd be in that chemistry class, and yeah, they might have 18 kids who live in Indiana in that class, but that's fine for that online learning experience. When they come here to do the in-person piece, it would be all 22 of our kids together for that week, not doing any academics. We'll work out the scheduling piece of that. Just doing that outdoor experiential part.
Okay, and where do those adults come from?
Store provides them. That's
Okay.
factored into the cost.
Okay.
Yeah, so in the back of the napkin budget, here I have $35,000 in year one for TL Store. That's for them to provide everything we need those 2 weeks.
They stay on location there.
Yeah, they'd stay there. Kids used to go to camp.
So I guess so the students who are local and technically like attending here, but going online, would they still be able to come for like school events such as like prom and winter carnival, and even for like middle school students, like the school dances and kind of like community type school community events like that?
So the answers to all of those questions would be developed over the next year or so, but it's yes, because all of those things can happen. Yeah.
I think we're really looking at the people who are choosing an online experience. You know, I could certainly see kids that, when we were largely in remote learning or we were going back and forth, a lot of kids like the opportunity to work. So, you know, they might like some more flexibility in their schedule. Some of the kids maybe.
But if you go to the very last page that I provided under next steps, I'm recommending at a minimum the existing enrollment options committee, but others, if you're interested, demos are easy to schedule with Stride, and I've even volunteered Peter to take some of you to a state where they've partnered with a school district like us to create one of these, so that you can talk to board members and administrators and the people who are the host school district for a school like this about their experience doing this over the last however many years.
The school you mentioned is the school that sponsored it is Modoc in Modoc, Indiana. Try and find out. It's a tiny little town. Their superintendent was connected to us through one of the people we work with in Indianapolis. They want to do it. That school, I think they only have 600 kids in their whole district, K to 12. But the online school is 4,000 kids. And it's been really good for them, financially and otherwise. But they were concerned about being overwhelmed. They were concerned about this could overwhelm our superintendents, could overwhelm our high school principal, and they decided to take kind of a hands-off approach with us. And we would do our part and they would do theirs. The superintendent, the business manager, would kind of be in between, bring a special ed person if we had a special ed issue. And that was it. And then over time, it's grown beyond that. But in the very beginning, they said, look, we don't want, you're bigger than we are. And we don't want what you're doing to overwhelm what's happening in our school. That's easily understood. Eufaula, Alabama is another kind of small district that did something like this. And I'd be happy to introduce you to people there, school board members, superintendent.
What's also nice is they hired curriculum people that design all this. So everything is designed by those curriculum people, and then the teachers come teach the curriculum, basically, right? That's how I understand it.
Yeah, and they do personalize them if they're, they're like a Robert Frost nut. They can put as much Robert Frost as they want in their English class. But there is a core English class that if they just want to follow, they can. And we have to align to the New Hampshire standards. These kids will take all the same standardized tests.
So if you have a senior, say you run this pilot next year and a senior wants to enroll, at the end of the year, they're getting a diploma from Prospect and walking at graduation? Or how is?
Yeah, I mean, we have to figure out if we want to do the same graduation or a separate graduation, or how you want to handle that.
Eventually this takes off
Yeah.
and you have 3,000 students, right?
Yeah, it
But
does
they're
its
all
own
gonna
thing.
have Prospect Mountain diplomas?
I think you would probably, when you run an innovation school or an innovation program, typically you would give it a slightly different name than the name of your school. It could be the Prospect Mountain Online Academy, just for one.
Right.
So
we
it could
just
have its
wanna
own
make sure that-
separate commencement, its
Right.
own, a diploma that says that instead, but still conferred by the SAU 301 JMA Joint Board.
Still meeting the same. Right, so they don't have issues trying to get into a college, because.
Right, still meeting the same requirements, but having a different experience. And I think that just in my own experience,
most kids like the high school experience, you know, for better or worse, that really fits, it works for them. But there is a certain population of kids that are very anxious or that have different goals. And I think that this could answer that situation. Again, I'm just having like a conversation.
Oh, yeah, no, and I'm
Okay,
definitely
good.
not like opposed to it,
But
it's just a matter of
because
looking at
I've
it.
always, you know,
I mean, you know better than I do, you're in education,
no, I always
so
feel
your
like,
feedback is valued.
sometimes the online learning doesn't carry as much weight as a regular high school diploma.
Well, that's so,
Yeah,
I
no, I'm
love
just
like,
speaking-
my college degree is from SNU online, just because I hated sitting in a class, but my concern is, so, you know, years ago, they had this Phoenix University, or all of these online, no disrespect, but these online colleges or schools, and that diploma is not recognized to get into a college, so now these kids are stuck because they did all this work, and UNH won't accept it. I'm not saying they don't, but it's just an example.
Right.
So I'm just wanting to make sure that it's a credible diploma, that these colleges are going to be like, oh yeah, you know.
Right, and I think it's changing,
It's changing very rapidly.
It really is, and that is, I think, the allure for me, is that, as a community member, and, I guess I just see it as sort of something that is kind of inevitable. It's coming, it's just a matter of who does it. And I think that if we have the opportunity to really take a serious look at it, I don't think, and maybe this is just me again, I don't think it's gonna take away from the prospect experience.
Right.
Because I still think that there are kids that
Who wanna be
Correct,
involved in it.
correct.
Right.
Yeah, but there are no other options besides VLAX right now, and that is painful.
Right.
Would they be able to take one class through this, or does it have to be all or nothing? So
Yeah,
in
that's
other words,
one of the
VLAX
possibilities later.
Yeah.
And different districts do it differently, right? So Peter works with some host districts, that might say, no, you're either in one school or the other, and that's the deal. But others might say, yeah, we don't have astronomy.
Right.
So yes, of course, you can take, yeah.
And we're looking
I
at a
think the
small
kids were
group.
looking at a pilot program.
Yeah.
We're looking at a small group between 20, 25 at most, and
That's it.
Tim's already started talking to homeschoolers, where a lot of times what we talked about is where parents can do the elementary stuff, when they get to high school, and it's a lot more technical.
Right, forget it.
Something like this, hands-on, it'd be, for the, like, my neighbors are all homeschooled, I know if they had something that was like this, they may have taken it with a VLAX for their kids. So we're talking a very small pilot group to see how this works too, and all paid for by Department of Education.
Right.
So at the end of the year, if it doesn't work, and we say this is not for us, it doesn't work,
At least
we're
we
out no
tried.
money, and we go, nice meeting you, and it's not for
Yeah,
us.
yeah, that's true.
I agree.
There is
Since you're
a
up with
time-sensitive application for the grant, that we need to move towards.
Yep.
Anne, what were you?
I said, Jay is awfully quiet.
Yes. Listening.
Well, I mean, you work with a lot of kids who could potentially benefit, but you are also in charge of schools, so, I'm just curious, what are your concerns, or what are your thoughts?
I honestly don't have any opinions at this time.
Have you, because I know we're all about surveys, have you done a survey to Barnstead and Alton, Tim, to see how many kids might be interested in an online option?
Yes, but it was during COVID.
Right.
So at the beginning of this year, when we were all in person, we had about 50 to 60 students in each town whose families said they would commit to all online learning for the entire year. I don't think that data is any good to us right here.
Right.
I don't think that means anything now.
Right,
To me, that was all about COVID.
yeah.
So I don't know right now. I do know that VLAX is full of kids. And that, again, there's going to be another online school in New Hampshire at some point. It might be a charter. If we were a group, and you were not a school board, just a group of people sitting around talking about starting a charter school, you'd be trying to figure out where to get the funding to start up.
Right.
So we're doing, tonight in a second, I'm gonna make a motion, it's just, for him to write a letter to the Department of Education to move forward, that we wanna move forward with this project so they can secure the money, so we can start, they can look at this. That's the motion I'm gonna make in a minute. That's kind of what we're looking for support for.
I'd also, if you don't mind, like you to not please lose sight that there are two things here. When Prospect Mountain High School is an open enrollment school, I believe very firmly that there are 40 to 80 students who live not in Alton or Barnstead, but close enough that they would travel here, who would leave their high schools tomorrow and enroll in this school. And I know 40 to 80 is a big range, but I can't believe that those students don't exist. I'll stop.
There are a lot of students who are traveling a long ways to get to their tuitioned high school that the town is paying the tuition to that may want to come here because they're that much closer. That supported a partnership with Prospect. Gilmington's the prime example. A lot of the people in that town supported a partnership because they're 5 miles down the road.
Right.
All right, that being said, I'm gonna make a motion, allow superintendent to write prospectives request to the Department of Education for special grant funding for a blended / innovation learning school here at Prospect Mountain.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
Okay, yes, just one more question, sorry.
No,
So
sorry.
does the vote to apply for this doesn't tie this into, does this commit us to this, or this is just?
It ties us into the pilot, which would be the 20 to 25,
The 1-year program, but not
anything
a
beyond that.
long-term program. The first pilot program.
Okay. Everybody else vote, I have to think.
In that
All right.
case, we call a roll call vote, so take our time. Give her time.
No, you're fine, just go, just go.
You said you want time.
No,
All right.
That's fine, just
And
I'm gonna vote yes. Aye.
Yes.
is Karen still there?
Yes, she waits.
She's muted.
Yes,
Thumbs
Karen has
up-
joined
thumbs up or
the
thumbs
Karen
down?
doesn't have
meeting.
questions?
We can't hear you though, Karen, I had you.
Come on now.
Are you hearing okay?
Yeah, I am.
Are you voting?
I'm voting aye.
There you go.
Thanks, Karen. Aye for me.
Yes.
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 Yes for the pilot.
All right.
That's what we're voting on.
I know, I just have to make it clear, Carol, I just have to make it clear.
I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more about this over the next
Yeah, I want
few
to, and
months.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna.
Well, I think it's good timing, because if it's not us, it's gonna be somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
And
Ella.
if it's somebody else, then we're not gonna have the opportunity again.
And I think it's good to have questions. You know?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, if you do, I
The
mean.
more questions that we can ask and kind of think of, I think that's better, not only for us, but it's better for our community.
I
and
agree.
It's better, it's just,
We need to understand what we're voting on and talking
Absolutely, and
about,
look
for sure.
I'd be happy to set up, like, some people may have budget questions, and others have legal, and some have, how do you teach kindergartners to read? And like, I can set up separate meetings for all of these kind of topics.
Yeah, I would encourage you to reach out to Peter directly, is that okay? To ask questions? So that we don't have to worry about a quorum or,
Yeah, definitely.
you know, there's a lot of information online too about this program. Okay, we have another big one next, which is the shared services update. I'm just wondering if we should let Jay go first because there's just a lot. These are big presentations. Jay, do you want to do your report next?
If that's what you'd like.
Yes.
All right.
You're very accommodating.
I try.
Jay's just along for the ride.
Okay.
And thank you, Peter.
I'm going to pass around this green piece of paper. This has end of the year calendar of events. There's more than enough on that side. So these are the end of the year dates of importance, beginning on prom day. And for each day, each event, there's probably a long list of questions, and I'm sure there's probably social media scuttlebutt. There's a little bit of everything. If you have questions about anything particular, thank you. You can certainly ask. A couple of things to point out. May 19th to the 21st, Little Shop of Horrors. The kids have been working hard. We have a musical director, a director who volunteered to take this on. It's fantastic. A lot of excitement around it. Kids were very excited to put on a production. It's been 2 years since we've been able to. So May 19th through 21st. So any talking and PR that you can do on behalf of the school, that would be great. You're going to start seeing a lot more PR coming from it. We have posters that were delivered today, and so we'll start advertising for that. Senior class trip, June 2nd and 3rd, it's a Thursday and Friday. They are taking 2 separate day trips. They're not doing any overnight stays anywhere. I think they're going to either Old Orchard Beach or York Beach for one of the days. And I think they're doing a hike up Mount Major and Elacoya on the other day. We have our senior activities that are planned the week of June 6th. Wednesday, the 8th, will be our senior day. We'll go through our graduation rehearsal, our cookout. We'll do our class awards day. Senior awards night, it's been done via video for the past 2 years. We're going back to a live presentation in the auditorium on that evening. Graduation on June 10th. We're shooting for an outdoor graduation on the soccer field. June 20th and 21st, those are the last 2 days of school, which at the last board meeting you requested if I could make those days fun. We're going to try our best to make those days fun for some and stressful for others. We're going to attempt a 3-grade hike up Mount Major and cookout at Elacoya. So if anyone is interested in being a chaperone that day, and would like to participate, I can assure you that it might be fun. So I have a group of people who are working on planning on that. We feel optimistic that we'll be able to pull it off. It is nerve-wracking to take potentially 350 kids up a mountain. But what could go wrong, right?
I'll be in the Outer Banks, so it's like.
Oh.
No, we're going to the Outer Banks with you.
So that end of the year dates, obviously subject to change depending on what we have going on. Does anybody have any questions about anything that's on this list?
What is on the senior obligation days, all your correspondence needs to filter through Rachel. Do parents need to correspond anything to Rachel?
So,
that's all I want to know.
I will be sending a letter. I think a letter goes out.
Right.
Who's a parent?
A letter will go out on, I think it's ready to go out on May 11th, that it has all of the explanations about senior obligations and events and timelines and things. It's a letter to put on the calendar, or to put on the refrigerator rather. So obligations, textbook return, uniform return, anything belonging to the school that seniors owe to the school, whether it was from freshman year or this recent year. Chromebook purchase or return. Basically, seniors are settling their debts, and so they have those 3 days from the last day of school up through graduation practice to take care of that. And of course, we accept stuff beyond that, but our push is really to settle everything by the end of graduation rehearsal.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Other things going on, we had our Good News Assembly. We do it every month, the last Friday of the month. We had it on Winter Carnival Day, which was the Friday before vacation. This year, similar to last year, we called it Sprinter Carnival because we did it in the spring, but it's really the Winter Carnival competition. The seniors came through, won it without cheating, as always. And it was a great time had by all. It's always a little bit stressful when you're doing this open campus. Everybody's in different places doing different things, but I think the kids were greatly appreciative of having the opportunity to do it. It went well as it could go, I suppose. And so now we're on the home stretch heading towards the end of the year. April, as I've explained in the past, we're using Life is Good super power model. Last month was humor, and so a team put together things, the signs that you saw. They had morning announcements, they told jokes.
I'm gonna go on record to say there was nothing humorous or funny about any of the jokes that were told. They were really bad, and that's, as a dad, I say that. This month is Simplicity, so we actually had a presentation by the Simplicity team today. And if you ever are interested in checking us out, I'll have to check to see if it's available to the public. We have every superpower team that's presented has put something. We have a bookmarks page here on our homepage for staff members, and so you can go and see all of the work that has been done, the ongoing work that's been done for these superpowers that are on our website. I don't know if it's accessible to the public quite yet, but I don't see there's a reason why it couldn't be. It's kind of a cool little resource to go and check things out to see not only what staff have done to keep each other empowered and positive, but some of the things that we've tried to do with kids as well, and they're just good things to live by, I suppose. We are still working on building the master schedule. We've done a couple of runs through it. It's challenging to build this year because of all of the intricacies of the future schedule and some of the parameters that we have to meet with the new contract that's been passed. So Linda and Tom have been working hard to figure that out, and they're making strides. We're really hoping that we will hit the May 26th deadline, which isn't on here. But the May 26th deadline is our 8th grade meet and greet. Actually, it is on here at the top, sorry. The May 26th meet and greet for the incoming 8th graders. Usually it's that evening where we're able to give them their schedules, have them tour around the building, meet teachers, see locations, things of that sort. So that's always the time frame that we like to hit. We're still DenPAC planning. We've come to a little bit of a standstill because all of the committee members have all of these other obligations, so we've had a difficult time getting together over the past few weeks. There are questions that are still being vetted and fleshed out. I've asked today, I showed examples of what I'm hoping that staff will provide in terms of financial itemizations of supplies and equipment that they might need, which I'm hoping the superintendent brings to you next month as part of capital planning and future purchasing. Summer enrichment program, I've approved 7 offerings. All 7 of those folks are working on planning their trips. We have someone who is going to be taking students hiking, someone who's going to be teaching kids how to go fishing, an art studio that's going to run where they'll have an option to experience several different mediums of art. There's a paddleboarding, yoga/paddleboarding one. And there's a couple of social studies teachers who are going to be traveling throughout New England, visiting historic museums. And then one of the subcommittees of the robotics program are going to be getting together to spend some time over the summer rebuilding robotics programs. So the deadline, I'm hoping to get from them their announcement and their recruitment strategies, as well as more of an explanation so that I can communicate that out to parents. I've given those folks for summer enrichment a deadline of May 11th, so hopefully you'll receive something on May 13th that has the advertisement and the contact information of how you go about signing up. So, unless anyone has any questions, that's it for me.
How about Teacher Appreciation Week?
Yeah, we are doing things throughout the building.
Right? Okay.
In different organizations. I take that back. I don't know how many different organizations are doing anything. Yesterday, teachers received a little appreciation card with a bag of candy. Today we did a fun little activity during our staff meeting where people got to give each other appreciation cards, as well as a complaint card that they got to put in a bucket and complain about anything they wanted. Thursday morning we have 90s trivia that's going to happen before school for anyone who wants to participate. And then during lunches all week long, kids are writing thank you notes to teachers, which they'll be given to Friday.
Okay, great, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
It's community service requirement.
So the community service requirement, my question for you, we explored this a couple of years ago, maybe last year even, and I guess as we begin to look forward, My question to you as a board is that, do you want to continue to have community service as a graduation requirement? Or are we interested in not having it and allowing kids to do community service for an organic reason and reap a benefit of a natural reward of putting it on their college applications and scholarships?
I feel like the last time we all talked about this, it's been a while, pretty much the same board though, was that we wanted to have something, but maybe not something so individual. So we wanted administration to bring us proposals for something that involves community service, but maybe is sort of inclusive of everybody or different groups or.
Maybe a day dedicated to community service.
Yeah.
So you're not busing out to pick up trash on the highway.
Right, something that would allow the freshman and sophomore age group specifically to get involved. A lot of the juniors and seniors are driving and can take care of that on their own. But I think, the picking up trash is a great idea, just even if it's an afternoon, not after school, but an afternoon.
Sure. So, and that is fine, but the question still remains, should it be a graduation requirement? If it is, it would change our approach to doing something like that. If we're just talking about the school administration, staff creating opportunities for community service for those who want to, that's different than saying, hey, you all have to come out on this adventure and perform community service. So really the question needs to be answered first and foremost, does it remain as a community service requirement?
I think it should,
I think it should
a
be
whole school
encouraged, but I
activity.
don't think it should be a requirement, in my opinion.
I kind of feel like it should be a requirement.
I do too.
That it should, I'm sorry?
I kind of feel like it should be a requirement.
Right now, they have a certain number of hours.
Yeah.
That they have to do. But if you incorporate it into a school day, then they'd be required to attend a community service activity. They can't just opt out of it. So that would be a requirement. Whether it counts towards graduation is another.
What is the current hour?
Well, over the past 2 years, it has been modified, but it was prior to COVID, it was 30 hours, and we reinstituted that 30 hours that you're supposed to get done by the time you conclude your junior year.
I mean, I don't know about all kids, but when my kids went here and had that requirement, they just had people sign off on their sheet saying they did it. And I'm sure there's plenty of other kids that do the same thing, so I don't know that there's a benefit to, I mean, there's probably some that are doing what they're supposed to, but I think there's probably.
I think there are some that are doing them.
There's some, probably a good portion that are probably just getting it signed off. I don't know. I mean, I get that, I think that they should want to do it, but.
There definitely is a lot of that. I see that with other students where even if they're doing like an hour or two, it's being written off as like 6 to 8, where they're, picking up like a tree and then getting somebody's parents to sign off.
Exactly.
Like,
Right.
10 hours.
Not that that's right, but it's happening.
I think 30 hours is a lot.
I do too.
That would be my.
Well, I'm wondering if it's a specific number of events per year and then they have to participate in, 1 out of 3 or, something. I'd really like administration to bring us something, but I think the spirit of the board is pretty evident. So kind of removing the individual counting of hours, but still making it something that all kids
Yeah, I mean, I think
participate
that's a
in.
good idea. Come up with like maybe 3 different options of what, and you need to attend one of those 3 before you graduate, and whatever that looks like, but.
Or each year, I don't want to dictate numbers,
We'll
but
still have an option though, so that if people want to have an individualized approach to their, like if you have someone who already wants to do something, they can get their hours that way, but we're offering options for those that maybe didn't proactively want to do it.
and I think Karen said last time something like class by class, maybe something along those lines.
I don't mean to seem pushy, but I'm going to have to stand in front of students, including 8th graders and their parents, and say to them, you either have to begin community service hours over summer or not.
I would say, okay, so.
I don't think we should require 30 hours for
Yeah.
graduation. I don't think we should have that kind of graduation requirement. I think if kids are cheating, then what's the point? So, but I do think we should have school-generated community service activities during the school day, because then they'll go, you know, like, wouldn't they rather go out on the highway and clean up trash than to, you know, I don't know.
That sounds like a motion to me.
Okay. I make a motion that we remove the requirement of 30 hours by graduation, but we do have whole school activities to engender.
So would
And we'll
it
look for a
require-
proposal maybe sometime over the summer when it's a little quieter.
Yeah, I don't think we should
yeah.
dictate what, just say we're removing the graduation requirement and let them bring us another proposal.
Mhm.
I don't think we should put that in motion.
The motion is remove the requirement with the understanding administration will bring us a proposal for community service. How's that sound?
Yeah.
Yes. I'll second that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I think
And
30
you-
hours is hard to generate for kids because they are working, they're going to school, they're working, they're involved in sports. It's hard to get those community, what do you do? Like,
Well,
my
I ha-
granddaughter came and did summer school. She worked in the summer school program to get her hours.
But as a community person who was, when I was on Parks and Rec, we tried to get kids in, and we put our request out there, and it sits on the board, and nobody answers it. So, like, what are they actually doing? And I've heard
It
that
would be
from other
nice-
people who have searched and
It
not
would be,
gotten a
it would be
response.
nice to have somebody at the school dedicated to kind of being the liaison for, community
There
requests
is.
like that. Is there?
There is.
Okay, okay.
But the philosophy behind community service is that this is about you. You go out and do something that you want. We have a bulletin board, we put out announcements saying, here are the opportunities, but at the end of the day, you have to decide, what are you interested in? What do you want to try? What do you want to go do? So we've always shied away from saying, hey, we're going to send you over there to pick up trash.
Right.
Here are all of the options that you have. If you want to work with dogs, if you want to pick up trash, if you want to do whatever, that's up to you. Like, the
I
whole
think we have a
purpose behind
school-wide
community
day.
service is to choose what you want to do because you want to do it, not because you're being forced to do it.
Okay.
But it builds
I-
community to have it within the school day. So if you have, you know, like Earth Day, you take a half a day on Earth Day and you go out and do some kind of cleanup. You know, it just generates some community feeling.
I'd like to kind of keep moving along because we have a lot on the agenda, but Carol has a motion. Do we have a second?
Yep, I did.
Okay. And any further discussion? We'll hear more about this when we get a proposal back from,
Sure.
and it doesn't have to be in June. Wait. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Karen's in favor too? All right. That passes. Thank you. Is that the same as graduation requirement, or are those two different things?
I think it was.
The same?
Yeah, there's a
Okay,
dash
great.
there, it shouldn't be.
Okay, thank you.
It is now.
All right, back to Tim. We have a shared services update / strategic plan update.
Make it quick.
Yeah.
Who's the chair of that? This, oh, yeah, this is the quick part.
Yeah.
This is the quick one. This is the quick one. Okay, you look through it on your own, have fun. Those of you who are on the Shared Services Committee who attended the meeting a couple of weeks ago know that there is a lot here. And at the end of it looks like this.
And the one with all the numbers.
And there's a packet behind it from Excel that shows costs and savings if you choose to merge services in certain areas. So after really discussing this with members of that committee, and this was not a Tim thinks you should do this meeting. This was a, here are some things we could do. It's a lot. It's more than I was hoping we would be doing in 1 year. But there, after going through them, in each of these areas, there is a situation that gives a reason to consider a change. And each of them, one by one, makes sense. So at this point, it is my proposal. And with the support of that committee, I already posted anticipated openings. You can choose not to appoint. That's okay, right? I can post for a dog catcher, and then you can say we're not hiring a dog catcher. But we have posted for a facilities director position to cover both elementary schools. And Heidi and I, by August, will work out, the formula for dividing that cost based on the things you've already agreed to in the shared services memorandum. There is an ongoing project to look at information technology and how those services can be shared across the 3 schools. Our consultants for that were here week before last. We'll be getting a report probably within the next 2 weeks, and then that'll inform how we come to you and recommend moving forward. We have posted an anticipated opening to have one food service director run the kitchens in both elementary schools, just like in facilities. That seems to make sense.
How does that influence our facility manager? I mean, how does that work? They apply for this position? Sorry to interrupt.
He did.
He did?
Yep.
Okay, just curious.
Many of these are due to attrition at the different schools.
Yeah. So nothing's on this list. Nothing's on this list unless there was an opening at one of the 3 schools.
Okay.
So there's at least one opening in each of these areas, and that's why it makes sense to think about this.
Okay.
I mean, again, after meeting with the committee, it kind of made sense to move forward in each of these areas and do all this.
Some are shared between the elementary schools, some are
Right, I see that.
shared between all 3 schools.
Psychology services in general can either be done with our own employees or by contracting everything out, and we've posted to find out if employees are available. We're also seeking RFP responses, for subbing it all out, so we can compare those costs. These numbers they keep getting better. These numbers are mostly pretty good. I skipped over directors of special education, so I'll go back to that one. As of tonight, I have a recommendation. I think that there is a lot to do. Again, those of you on the committee saw a lot more detail. We've done some analysis of the current states in student services in each of the 3 schools. The number of students with IEPs, with 504 plans, receiving Title I services, how many people we employ, either as teachers or as related service providers or as paraeducators. As guidance counselors, we included the directors, their support staff, and it's interesting that at 2 of the schools we have 31, 32 employees supporting those functions, and at 1 we have 50 to 55. So there are probably some cost savings available for that board that we'll talk about at that board's meeting. But it also means there's a lot to do. Right? We've talked at this high school about moving more delivery of special ed services from a separate setting into the general education classroom. That's happening. Jay and his staff, Justin and Ruth, have been working together, training special ed teachers on how that's going to look next year. So that movement is happening. There's more of that kind of work, a lot more of that kind of work that needs to be done in some of the other schools. So my recommendation would be that, that there still be 2 certified directors here, and that one of them simply be the director and the other one be the associate director, and I'll continue to work on the difference between those 2 job descriptions. And that's what I'd like to post.
I would think there would be plenty to do to differentiate those roles between the management of paras and...
I would be terrified to drop to only 1 director right now for these 3 schools. Terrified. I'm not really interested, if that's okay.
I would not.
The cover sheet here from Excel gives you the estimated increase, decrease, cost difference broken down by town. Not everything represents savings for each of the 2 member towns. Some things cost a little more, some things cost less, but overall there's savings for both. At the urging of the Shared Services Committee, maybe it was mutual, we ended up talking about I thought this would come in another year or 2, but could we actually consider a curriculum director for all 3 schools, or if we get a powerful enough candidate, even make that an assistant superintendent position for curriculum instruction assessment. And I've provided the breakdown of what costs could look like if we did that. I have also posted those jobs as, again, anticipated potential openings.
Those were truly driven by the committee.
And with the cost savings, we're able to afford those positions.
It's close, right? You can see the numbers. But bear in mind, at your individual board meetings, right, you're two different boards here. So you've got to consider your mutual interests. You made this commitment to each other when you agreed to the shared services memorandum of understanding. You've got to consider your mutual interests and also your separate interests. So I'll have this topic on the Alton board meeting agenda next week, and on the Barnstead board meeting agenda 2 more weeks after that. And we'll talk exclusively about your separate interests with regards to all of this. But that means that when we come back here on June 7th, I may be asking you to appoint people in some of these roles based on what I'm hearing in those conversations. I don't want to ambush you at a meeting and ask you to fill a position that you don't want to exist. I need your approval, so I'm paying attention, first to what the committee had to say when we met, now to whatever you might say in the next couple of minutes, and then to what I hear at your individual board meetings.
It's also getting late, I think we all need to keep that in mind too when we.
She means in the year. She doesn't mean
in the year for, in the year for hiring really talented administrators.
Can I just ask a question, and I just don't know. What is the difference between planned and proposed?
Where?
Just in general, what is the difference?
So, so planned is what we.
So like, this is not my school.
Planned is what we put in the budget.
Okay.
So planned is what we put in the budget or put in grants, thinking that we would replicate what we have this year, next year.
Okay.
Proposed is how it would change with shared services, right? So for example, the very first one, facilities directors, Alton would have spent $163,706 in that area with a shared position between the 2 elementary schools. Sorry about the pronunciation. Alton spends $124,576 for a savings of $39,130, and then just go across and you can see the same thing for Barnstead. Here's what Barnstead would have been planning to spend on a director of facilities next year. Here's what a shared service is estimated to cost, and the difference is $25,034 in savings for Barnstead.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yep. And then each sheet behind the summary gives the detail in each of the areas. A lot of detail.
So, do you need a motion from us tonight? Or is this informational?
It's a really tricky one because ultimately you have to approve all of this. Right? We don't hire, these are certified positions, most of them, right? We don't hire these people without you wanting to. So if you don't want to combine services, I'd love to know it now.
So what about kind of a straw poll where we go around, if anybody has any specific concerns, we can talk about it then in our individual board meetings over the next couple of weeks, but then Tim gets an idea of where everybody stands. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay. Who wants to go first?
I'm a yes.
Okay. Brandy? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Ann?
Yes.
Or concerns?
Call me.
If you have concerns, yeah.
No, I think that there are, my overall answer is yes.
Okay.
I just would like to definitely see some things combined, and I think some other things should not be, like the special ed director, and I would love to see if we're gonna do curriculum, have it be combined with an assistant superintendent type of role. So it's that sort of stuff, but, so it's not a no. I think it's, and I completely trust the committee. It sounds like.
It was a long meeting.
But,
Yeah, it sounds like
but
you guys
clearly
have done a
there's
great job.
there's an opportunity to, the local district will have a meeting and be able to discuss their concerns, and I have confidence in the superintendent to be able to then bring those back to us in our next meeting.
So yes, absolutely.
Okay. Lila?
Yes.
Okay. I'm the same. At the committee, we really felt like the curriculum piece was really important. And I do think if we can find somebody who's a heavy hitter enough to be an assistant superintendent, That's gonna take a lot of, weight off of Tim's shoulders with everything we have going on, So that's kinda how I'm feeling about it, but all of the, positions make sense to me.
Yeah, I'm a yes, and, I mean, these are things that we had talked about initially, but we wanted to take baby steps and things.
Sometimes
These are some big steps, I'm sorry.
No, but we did take baby steps.
We did,
We
yeah,
got
we did.
started, and from everything I can tell, it's working well. I haven't, so, I'm a yes.
How's Karen feel?
I'm on the Shared Services Committee, so I reviewed a lot of this already. You know, at first, one of my concerns was doing this all at once, but then when we talked each situation through, just due to things that are happening in each position in one of the schools, in particular, does make sense, because we need to do something anyways for a lot of these positions.
Right.
I guess the one thing that's new to me that I want more information on is whether we take a step to an assistant superintendent position to combine that with curriculum. I want to know really what's involved in that and what duties, because I was leaning towards, I didn't realize I was on the plate until tonight, so, but I definitely am in favor of our curriculum director for all three schools. PTS.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Motion to adjourn? Can I get a second?
Yeah, you get a second.
Yes, you can, be careful.
I know, we have a lot.
Well, you've already done a lot.
Strategic plan update is on the agenda, but that's basically the stuff, a lot of the stuff we just talked about. All right, innovation program, we've already taken a vote on that for action items. Jack's driving school.
So I received an email from Jack. His contract is up in July. So he is getting phone calls for the fall enrollment and wanted to know if we're gonna extend his contract. So I figured I'd bring it.
So I feel like we went through this last year, right? We tried to put it out and nobody bid.
Yeah.
He was the only one who bid.
But he came
Is he
back
keeping the same
higher
price?
after we put it out.
Oh, in the meantime, not to get too personal, but they had a huge hiccup this year. And I already expressed to most of you how I feel about it. So I would rather have no one than have them, quite honestly. That's
I
my.
don't know about the graduation requirement. I know that there was something, or they could get credit.
Oh, yeah,
Sorry.
we had made,
But
a
they're-
decision a few years ago once it,
They're not, right?
They're not,
Like
no.
Getting so.
Correct.
That's out of the.
Would anybody like to make a motion?
Yeah, proposal together for next month.
What was the motion? I'm sorry?
The
I'm saying
problem
you
is,
should put a proposal together for next month, so we have something in front of us to look
a
at.
lot of the schools are offered during the summer, and,
I got nothing to look at, I know the same price or anything else for the kids. Just put
Yeah.
nothing together.
So I don't know anything about the hiccup, but, my only concern is that, I mean, driver's ed is painful for parents.
yeah.
Getting kids to driver's ed, even though it's so worth it, it's a lot, and so I don't know anything.
I don't know about here, but I'm learning the kids at Noble in Maine, their driver's ed program is like a 2-year wait because of like COVID and everything that happened. These kids are on like a waiting list to take driver's ed.
We have a lot of,
It's
we have a lot of choices, but you have to go, there's the one here, and then there's, all the cities around us.
But you gotta get there, right?
And I
They
went,
don't come
yeah,
here
I
to
was
get
driving
you.
my kids to Concord at 7 a.m. on Saturdays,
Right.
But that's because I chose not to send them to Jack's.
Right.
I also think the majority of our kids are born in the fall statistically. Most, the highest birth rates are in the fall. And so those kids, a lot of them, October is like the highest month for birth rates. A lot of kids take driver's ed during the summer if they qualify, and I think that's the timing that I'm thinking about.
Do we know how many of our students actually use Jack's? Like, is it worth?
I think I don't know the answer to that, anything would be observational. There is a benefit to having it here, it's a central location.
Right.
But I couldn't tell you the percentage of who's going elsewhere. You could certainly have the conversation about using different models, so it's not done here in the evening time. Maybe it's a before school type of thing or something like that. I mean, I don't know if the issue is with Jack's in particular or the timing of it.
I think some of his employees have some questionable behaviors.
Sure.
That's what I'm
Sure.
hearing. I've heard it from kids. It's similar to what we had talked about.
I think there's a definite convenience factor to having it here, but I think that parents aren't aware what they're really getting for what they're paying.
Right.
So,
But if we eliminate it, there's gonna be a hardship.
Right,
And
and
that's
that's,
the problem.
that's my concern, is the hardship if it's eliminated, but I
but do you
also-
wanna safeguard it?
Yeah.
So there's also, I mean, if you put this out there and let other people,
We did.
Apply.
Nobody applied.
last year you did, right? Last year was a COVID year that people, I mean, I know of one, I personally know one person who opened up his own driver's ed school within the past 4 months. So, all I'm saying is that there might be more opportunities that if you put it out there again to collect bids that.
Use the same
Yeah,
language
so
as
let's
us.
go back to the
I think
motion.
that's just proposals, I got nothing in front of me, because I'll vote no right now, because I have nothing in front of me. I don't know what he's planning on doing, don't know what the cost is, don't know anything. So, if he reached out to you, he wants to keep this, but didn't do any work, I'm frustrated with that, because I got nothing.
Can we, because of the timing, can we do sort of an accelerated proposal schedule and allow the superintendent and Heidi to make the decision for us?
We can bring it back to you in June. There's no schedule problem. We can put out an RFP. We have the language, we just did it,
Okay,
and we'll bring it back to you in June.
all right.
He wants it.
And if anybody knows anyone we should email it to, let us know.
Kids can still sign up for them, it just might not be here, I mean, they'll know in June if we're gonna move forward.
Yeah.
Private business.
So as a private business, can't he accept students that wanna take it in the summer? It doesn't need to be contracted
Okay.
through.
All right. That makes
I think it's
sense.
specific to here, the location.
Right, so he can put it out to say.
So,
on behalf of
in that
the-
case, I'm not sure we even need a motion. It's really not action, so we'll just proceed with that.
I agree.
Moving right along. School board scholarship recipient. In your packet were
4,
four.
I got my number right.
And if you haven't given your check to Heidi, a reminder that a check for $50 to Prospect Mountain High School tonight or in the very near future would be appreciated to help fund this scholarship. So this is the Maureen Fitzpatrick Memorial Scholarship for students who are interested in studying in the health sciences. And I believe Eunice has a nomination in mind.
I would, I'll make a motion that we award the Maureen Fitzpatrick Memorial Scholarship to applicant number 2.
Second,
That's who I
so I put down 2.
Ooh,
Multiple seconds,
I like
okay.
that one
good
too.
job.
Any
Glad you got that right, Eunice.
other discussion, except that I would like to note, we only seem to have 4 applicants this year. We usually have at least 8 or 9, it feels
Yeah.
like, yeah. So, I'm not sure what happened, but, or what the current situation is. All right, so, all those in favor of applicant number 2?
Yes?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm gonna
Aye.
abstain, I haven't read them.
Okay.
I didn't get the agenda or anything.
You got it.
You
didn't?
did?
The packet in your email?
No, no.
It said, unfortunately, the first attachment said buildings and grounds, so I immediately dismissed it as buildings
No, there
and
was
grounds.
nothing there,
Okay.
so that's why.
I think Sarah has the wrong email address here. Because remember, I got a parent email that said it was supposed to be to you too, and it wasn't?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
All right. So we have, all in favor, and were any opposed?
Okay, yeah.
And 1 abstention. Okay, all right, thank you. Okay. The 2022-23 assessment schedule.
Make a motion to accept the 2022-23 assessment schedule as presented.
Second.
Any discussion?
You want me to read the dollar number?
Sure.
Net assessment of $8,796,134.40.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Now we're looking through it. The 22-23 general assurances. These are required every year for federal grants compliance.
Make a motion to authorize the board chair to sign the general assurances for FY '23.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Policy, we have policy DFA.
Is this first read or final read?
This is a review. You have to review it annually and approve it.
Okay.
Nothing's changed.
Perfect. I make a motion to, we now review and accept DFA investments policy.
Second.
Hello?
It's
Any
Facebook.
any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Personnel report.
I'll make a motion to accept the resignation of Brad Muir and Ashley
Fenninger.
Thank you for the help.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion for stipends to Catherine Martinez, play producer.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Well, hello.
Uh,
What are we doing now?
athletics, are these potential adjustments on the handouts, Tim?
The email that I'm handing you has fall coaches on it.
Okay,
I'm giving you two sheets. One is non-teacher renominations, and the other one is an email on fall coaches.
okay.
All right, welcome back to this one. So, I'd like to make a motion for James Christie for varsity girls softball coach and the additional stipend for as a JV coach. And Steve Renner as assistant varsity girls softball coach, an additional stipend for covering the JV.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So I guess we have fall coaches on the handout.
Ball coaches. I make a motion. Do you want all read by name, or you want the whole group?
Yeah, we might as well. Just the ones that are
Yeah,
filled.
make a motion to accept Karen Pearson as varsity volleyball coach, Haley Holmes as JV volleyball coach, Drew Williams as varsity soccer coach, John Tuttle as varsity cross-country coach, Ryan McKenna as varsity golf, Holly Kelly as unified soccer, Corey Rue as fishing, and Mark Anthony as co-coach bass. Fishing. And that will be the list.
I will second that motion.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then we have the support staff and administrators.
The only things I'd like to point out is that we have included both salary adjustments and reappointments. These are employees not eligible under the RSA that would have required you to do this by April 15th. So these are not certified teachers. You do not have to do the salary adjustments if you want to take this as something to think about as we prepare for the June meeting. But being able to let people know that they've been reappointed and we hope they'll be back next year would be handy. If you do want to move on salary adjustments, think there are, pardon me, there are a couple that we don't have here that we would bring to you in June anyway. The ones that we do have here, some of these are per a collective bargaining agreement, the paraprofessionals, so they just say per CBA because it is what it will be. The others, they all say 3%. I know some of you don't prefer that approach, and I'm going to tell you why they say that this year, because the cost of living adjustment by the federal government this year was 5.9%. We have 3% in the pool, so unless you tell us to find more money, we're giving less than the cost of living adjustment to our employees this year. So it makes it a lot harder for us to talk about giving somebody 2 and somebody else 4, when we already know that everybody's purchasing power is being slightly reduced. There are a couple of market adjustments which you can see down the salary adjustment column. If you see a little additional note with the words market adjustment, that's based on research we've done. One of them we actually talked about last year as a 2-step market adjustment. You did the first chunk last year, planning to do the second this year. There are a total of 4 of those here. And again, you don't have to act on the salaries if you choose not to, but I would ask that you at least act on the nominations.
Do we budget 3%? Is that what we budget?
You budget 3% of all non-union employees' salaries as a separate line.
Okay.
It's typically referred to as the 3% pool, and that's money that's available for raises.
Okay.
I make a motion for 22-23 support staff and non-collective bargaining agreements as presented with adjustments this year because of what the increase has gone up to.
I'm just wondering if we could sort of keep it open for a revisit in June if Tim thought he could find more money for, yeah, given the cost of, and the number of people that are exiting education right now is pretty extreme.
Well, I think just even voting on this right now still leaves us open if he brings back more money. We could
Yeah.
vote again on another motion.
Right, I
Yeah,
think so.
yeah.
Doesn't preclude anything.
We definitely give them 3% at least.
And I just say
Well,
it's
all of the pairs are under contract.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah, this
they're-
would just be the
they're CBA.
non-contractual positions.
Yeah.
I just throw it there because it is, even our county right now is doing 5% on July and another 5% on our anniversary date to try to hit because of inflation and everything else that's going on, which is very unusual, but it's definitely weird times.
Mm-hmm. Any further discussion on this? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Okay. So it's time for our second public input, and seeing nobody except Peter, unless he wants to give public input. Seeing none, I'll close public input. Future agenda items, I'd like to add in a future agenda discussion of some kind of ski program benefit for the high school. Think about it in the summer where it's too late.
We're going back and see if Tim found more money. Did you just said
Yeah.
there's an opportunity?
Raises,
Shared services.
shared services, yep. And community service.
You told them it didn't have to be June.
It doesn't have to be June. It's just future
I was
agenda
gonna say,
items.
you gave them the summer, I thought.
Yeah, sometime during the summer would be perfect, but I know this is crazy.
Not
Jeff.
June, end of May, if you could.
Get on your own.
Anything else going on?
Do we need non-public?
Please say no.
I don't, to any of you.
I don't.
No,
No? Okay. There will be no
I wanna go home
non-public?
and eat dinner.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Thank you.
Help
All
you
those in
too.
favor? Aye. Next meeting will be June 7th.